Let's start off with the first of four. These aren't necessarily sequential. So think about how do you leverage some of these components in your business, and which of these could be the very first step for you to start taking with respect to each of these four categories as I go through them. So the first is the way you think about your time. Your time ultimately is your business inventory. It's your capacity. It's what you're selling. I don't want to say it that way. You're not selling your time. We don't want you to sell your time, but what you, at the core of it, is what you are making available to your clients. And so you want to start intentionally deciding how you allocate your time. You may have some subcontractors on your team. You're still in some way selling that access to you as you oversee those individuals to deliver. But we really want to think about your time as this first component to the four steps to doubling your business, and thinking about how do you make more of that time? How is that time worth more to you and your business if you think about it as your inventory? What types of work do you want to offer? Right now, perhaps you're offering more project management type work or program type management work when you know that you're capable of providing more advisory or strategy type work. And so the type of work that you're taking on is not as valuable to you in the sense of your inventory and what that is worth to you in your business. You also want to be thinking about what you charge. Some of us are still charging on an hourly basis. There's not, we all start somewhere. I charged on an hourly basis for probably 4 years. So in hindsight, it would have been helpful to have noticed that earlier and to make my inventory more valuable. And then how much do you want to work? Like the person who added their comment in the chat, 24 hours a week. And what does that look like? So when we know the answers to these questions, then we're able to build and reverse engineer how we want to use our time in our business and our inventory in our business so that we can make the most of it. So I want to give you an example, a very simple example here, where you're thinking about what are the services that you want to offer? What is the value of those services? What's the average contract value? How many of those do you want to sell? And how does that add up to your number? Like the 200K number, for example. What are you selling, and how does it create that number for yourself? So that, because a lot of times what I see with independent consultants is we end up taking work that comes to us. We end up deciding, we find a lead somehow, either it comes to us or we go out and find it. And then we decide, do we want to do this type of work? And we create a price, and we hope, we kind of extrapolate, is that going to fit into our business goals for the year, into our revenue goals for the year? Instead of first really building out this business model so we know what it is that we're seeking, what the ideal pricing is for that, what the value of our inventory is, and making decisions about that inventory as we go through our sales process. So let me give you an example. I had a consultant who I was working with the other day, and she has this exact business model in place. The not this one, a different one, but it looks like this example. And what a client had come off of, kind of come at her out of the blue. A potential client had come out into her email out of the blue. I think it was from a referral. And that client wanted her to provide some fractional services. And they wanted to provide her with a combination of equity and compensation. It was an early stage software company. And she went back, it would have been, she said to me, it would have been so tempting in the past to take this work because it was, a bird in the hand. I could have done the work really easily. But when she came back to her blueprint here of how she wanted to spend her time and what her time was worth in terms of her inventory, it didn't fit into the business model. And so rather than operating off of scarcity and saying, I better take this engagement because it's right here and they're asking me to take it on, and it may have some potential upside from the equity perspective, she decided to turn that down because it didn't fit into this business model of what it is she was looking for. And for a lot of us as independent consultants, that can be very rare to think of our business in this way and turn away work when it doesn't fit into the model that, and therefore consume our capacity at a lower rate, at a place where we're working more than we want to be working. So we want to really have that clear intentional plan in order to be able to double our revenue and hit that target number, whatever yours is, whether it's 200K or 500K, and operate the business from that more proactive, intentional way. So let me give you some examples of how this first concept can come to life in your business. The first is, let's say you're trying to go from 100K to 200K, so doubling from 100 to 200. It could be very easy that you decide to double your bill rate from 100 to 200 if you're still working on an hourly basis. Again, we all start somewhere. So if you are working 90 hours a month, that would add an additional 100K. Or you might shift and say, I'm going to start selling five. My goal is, on top of what I've been doing to create the 100K, I'm going to shift to selling five, or augment, I should say, to add selling 5 20K strategy type projects. That adds 100K. Or I'm going to add 2 5K per month retainer clients, which adds 120K. So those give you some examples of things that you could do. And of course, you can mix and match here, but those give you some examples of very specific intentional plan you could make to double your revenue. The next example, from 250 to 500, you could increase your pricing by 30%. You could sell 7 15K assessments. And then also you could sell 1 8K per month retainer. The addition of all of this is about 276,000. So this is another way of mixing, diversifying your service offerings so that you are able to double the revenue. And then finally, doubling from 500K to 1 million, you could do that by increasing your pricing, selling an assessment per quarter, and then selling 3 10K retainer clients to add that additional 560K. These just give you some examples, hopefully very tangible examples, to be thinking through about what it is you want to intentionally create when you think about the inventory that you're selling to your ideal clients. This intentional business model. So before we move on to the next step, step number 2, let's talk about the obstacles that you want to be watching out for when you think about doubling your inventory or the value of your inventory. And that is, one of them is pricing based on time. Time is a cap for you. And so thinking about your pricing in a different way that releases that cap through things like retainers, or strategy type work that's more quick hit, assessment type work that's more quick hit. Thinking you need to, another blocker on the mental side is thinking that you need to work more to earn more. We're all taught this concept. And so really knowing and seeing where that's showing up for you in your business is so important. It shows up kind of in a macro way at first when you're charging by the hour. And then when you shift into retainer type work, it comes back in more subtle ways that you really want to be watching out for, so that you don't fall back into the trap of thinking you need to somehow prove that you're earning this retainer by the number of hours you're working versus the value that and the impact that you're making for your client. And the third bucket is worrying that specialization will leave money on the table. I hear this so often, where consultants are concerned about really niching down into what they offer because they're worried they're going to leave potential opportunities on the table, that they'll turn those potential clients away. When in fact, when you're more specialized, then clients know what to seek you out for. They know exactly what you do, and that you're the expert that they might be looking for.